I am a Yank in Sussex. This Yank and his wife, the British bride, spent nearly 3 weeks holidaying in Devon, Cornwall, and Somerset in October. The last part of the trip took place near Taunton, and on the next to last full day, we drove up to the village of East Quantoxhead on the Bristol Channel in order to have a look at the geology there. Now, I have a tendency to be interested in virtually everything. I don't get bored. As I like to say, it's against my religion. But what it is really is that I find interest in everything. The very dirt that I walk in, the people that I meet, the air that I'm breathing, and my own thoughts. But one of my big interests is geology. As a young teen, I lived for one summer near the city of Riverside in California, and it was particularly memorable because of a hill just down the street from us that had lots and lots of big granite boulders. Most of these had been quarried from somewhere else. You could see the drill marks along the edges of some of the blocks, and for some reason had been dumped on the hill rather haphazardly, forming interesting places to crawl around on and in. Ever since then, both big and small rocks have held some fascination for me. So, it was quite a treat to be told that we were going to view some geology at a place near East Quantoxhead Beach. I had never heard of the place before, and geology aside, even its name was intriguing. It was easy to see that the Quantock part comes from the name of the range of hills running northwestward from a bit north of Taunton to St. Audrey's Bay on the Bristol Channel. These are the Quantock Hills. The hills run from the Vale of Taunton Dean in the south for about 15 miles or 24 kilometers to the northwest, ending at Kilve and West Quantoxhead on the coast of the Bristol Channel. Here's a photo of the Quantock Hills taken from Exmoor, showing how it extends from the vicinity of Taunton almost to the Bristol Channel. The name Quantock first appears in Saxon charters from around 880 AD as Cantuctun, and 2 centuries later in the Domesday Book as Cantocnona and Cantotone. The name means settlement by a rim or circle of hills. Cantuc is Celtic for a rim or circle, and Tun or Tun is Old English for a settlement. Well, anyway, Quantoxhead refers to the fact that these hills terminate at around the area where both villages, west and east, are sited. By a similar token, it seems that the southern end of the hills near where the village of Kingston St. Mary is located could be called Quantock's Foot, but it's not. As it happens, Kingston St. Mary has a point of interest in terms of the Sussex Yank, in that the first part of the village name comes from the King's Settlement, having belonged to the kings of the West Saxons, or Wessex, who finally conquered Sussex in 825 AD, of course. Ancient history aside, we departed our Airbnb near Taunton and headed northwards up the A358. The satnav, or GPS, wanted us to head almost up to Wilton and then take a side road from near Bicknoller, crossing to the A39 and to first west and then east Quantoxhead. For some reason or other, we decided to cut through the Quantock Hills at Crowcombe instead. We didn't stop at Crowcombe, but it was a very picturesque little village, and I wish we could have had time for it. Maybe next year. This road across the Quantocks is a standard narrow country road, but we were not at all alone on it. Like most such roads, it's very narrow in places, so the weekend traffic combined with the school break made sure we had to pass quite carefully in spots. It is said that from the top of the hills on a clear day, it's possible to see Glastonbury Tor. And in fact, we stopped briefly at a viewpoint, and I was in fact able to see it using my binoculars. Unfortunately, I had not taken my fancy Canon EOS camera for the trip with its long lens, so we couldn't get a decent photo of the Tor. One place along the way was noteworthy for its name, Dead Woman's Ditch. Ew! What was that about, I wondered. There was no time to investigate it at the time, but of course once we were back home in Sussex, I looked it up. Apparently it is part of a very long ancient earthwork, and is a scheduled ancient monument. It consists of a bank with a ditch along its west side that is nearly 1 kilometer long. Like a lot of such earthworks, it's so old nobody has any idea why it was built. Coincidentally, and I don't know if this is because there's something about the name that draws bad events, but it's infamous in the local area as a site of the murder of Jane Wolford by her husband John in 1789. The name of the site actually predates the murder, however. In any case, we didn't stop to see this sad name ditch, but on we drove towards Nether Stowey in order to join up with the A39 road heading northwest. This village's existence predated the Norman invasion, but it's the site of a Norman-era motte and bailey castle that was erected in the 11th century. It was destroyed in the 15th century, and all that's left of it are the earthworks. I would have liked to have stopped to investigate the castle, but we had gotten a late start that day and had to hurry on. So onward we drove until we reached the tiny village of East Quantoxhead. Aside from the village's lovely picturesqueity, is that a word? The co-located estate, whose manor house is called Courthouse, is quite unusual in that it is still owned and operated by descendants of the original holders of the grant issued by William the Conqueror in 1070. Not only that, but no part of the estate has ever been sold since it was granted. In another 47 years from the publishing of this video, the estate will be 1,000 years old, and I was starting to think that I was ancient. Once we parked at the very convenient parking area in the middle of the village, it was only a half-mile walk to the beach, so off we went. There was only one problem, and that is that it had been raining rather smartly over the past few days, and certain parts of the public walkway were rather muddy, and in those places it was hard to find a relatively drier spot to walk on to avoid sinking in the mud. But I got clever. It appeared to me that part of the farmer's field on the west and parallel to where the path was muddiest was actually less muddy. So I resolved to try to walk inside the field and around the muddy part of the path when we returned to the village. I will not make you wait for the results of my great idea. It turned out to be anything but a great idea. I got partway through it, but when the mud started trying to suck my shoes off my feet, I realized my error and retraced my steps. I almost lost my shoes about 5 times. Here's the result. At the end of the public walkway, the beach is easily accessible, if you like stairs.
Ah, my old enemy. Stairs.
As I may have intimated earlier, I'm older and less agile than I used to be, so I'm not too keen on long flights of stairs and uneven ground at the bottom. But here we were, so down the stairs we went. But first I had to look out over the Bristol Channel to the other side, which was South Wales. The Bristol Channel is 9 miles across at this point, and it's hard to see anything in any detail across the water except for this huge smokestack. Since the town of Barry is northwards, directly across the channel, I thought this might be a feature at Barry, but I later discovered it was the smokestack of a decommissioned power generation station at West Aberthaw, a bit further west of Barry. The visible smokestack belongs to the Abershaw B power station, which, as I said, is no longer operational. It ceased operation in March of 2020. The site has been suggested as a possible site for tidal energy generation, which is quite interesting. The Bristol Channel has rather strong tidal action, and harnessing it would provide a lot of electrical power, if this turns out to be feasible. Well, that's out of scope for this channel. This is the East Quantoxhead Beach. I have to confess that calling it a beach is somewhat odd to me. This is because I was born in Southern California and lived there until I was 15, and then off and on for the next 5 years. This is what a beach is to me. This is Huntington Beach, which was just a 20-minute drive from my family home. Note that Huntington's Beach is just one stretch of a sandy beach that runs for 21 miles from the city of Long Beach in the north to Newport Beach in the south. Note the names of the towns: Beach, Beach, and Beach. In the summer, this beach seems to be a city in its own right, as there are so many people frolicking on it. Well, the key word here is sand, and East Quantoxhead Beach doesn't have any. But what it does have is rocks, and wow, are they gorgeous rocks. The place is chock full of geology. The primary thing of interest is the layers of rocks that are so prominently on display here. Now, at first, I took note of the very obvious light-colored rock layer at the bottom, The other layers above it were clearly made of softer types of rock, and I figured that the softer rock layers were either sand or limestone and some form of slate or shale. But the light-colored pillowy rock at the bottom had to be some kind of granite, I thought at first. Except that even those layers are interspersed with slate or shale layers. But of course granite is an igneous rock, meaning it is of volcanic origin. So it seemed unlikely that it would be mixed in with the obvious sedimentary rocks here. Needing to do a little research, I dug around using Bing. I prefer Bing to Google, by the way, and finally located a professional geological description of the site on the Geological Society website. The article I read directly addresses the layers shown here and says that the entire zone is part of what is called the Blue Lias Formation. I think I got that pronunciation right. But the one thing it doesn't seem to do is address the light gray layers that seem to predominate at the bottom, which are obviously much more durable than the upper layers. What are they, I wondered? After some digging, pun intended, it seems that the gray lowermost member of the Blue Lias is the Wilmcote limestone. It actually looks a bit like what's called greywacke, but I'm pretty sure it's not. From there on up it goes siltstone and mudstone, limestone, mudstone, siltstone, limestone, and so on in alternating layers all the way to the top, where topsoil finally occurs. While we were exploring the beach at East Quantoxhead, I wondered if there were fossils to be found in the sedimentary rock, but I was imagining that one would have to crack open some rocks in order to see this. And as I had left my rock hammer at home, I had no tools to do it with. And then, too, I imagined that this being a site of special scientific interest, perhaps that was not permitted. So I confined my investigation to observing the rock layers and wondering about the story they tell. After we returned home to Sussex, however, it happened that one of the YouTube channels that I follow, one called The Polish Explorer, had also visited East Quantoxhead and the local area, and had posted what he had found. And what he found is what I completely missed: fossils. The Polish Explorer and the Scottish Explorer trekked over from St. Audrey's Bay on this occasion. The following is an extract from the video in which they found a number of fossils near East Quantoxhead Beach. I've taken the liberty of inserting a couple of satellite photos and clarifying notes. Links to his channel and the videos about East Quantoxhead are shown above and in the description.
Jak się masz? Explorer's Crew. Jak się masz? Today we are in St. Albans?
Oh, honey, I didn't even have a look.
Well, I tell you later, it doesn't matter. Last time I was in Quantoxhead Beach, which is beyond that bit sticking up. But apparently here, exactly where I show you right now, that is the best place to find something that was petrified in the rocks. And that's what we're gonna do today. We came nice and early and we got the whole day to find something beautiful.
Fingers crossed.
Way better than the one I dragged to the car 2 kilometers on my last trip. So hopefully we're gonna find some nice, beautiful, smaller pieces. Oh, look at that! Oh my God, and it's again in a very, very big stone. Beautiful print. Just next to the landslide. I missed it. You see how easy? You really have to spend hours and hours walking up and down to not miss anything. Oh, and there is another one. Smaller. Wow! Can you see that? Oi, 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 don't crush it. That's the find. That's the print, and that's the whole shell. Limestone is very dense and heavy, so we won't be able to crack it or take it with us, but it's a beautiful piece. Leave it for somebody else to see as well. Let me check if there is any more, because, well, I just completely skip it first on my first pass, so I'm pretty sure if you got enough time to start turning those stones, there is much more. Oh, look at that! Another piece, one next to another.
I highly recommend the Polish Explorer's channel. I especially enjoy his content because he walks to places I cannot. A recent video of his where he clambers over the rocks at Morta Point in North Devon with what he very appropriately calls Stegosaurus rocks is especially interesting. It's taken me longer than expected to get this video completed and out the door, so to speak. I did try my hand at throwing together videos about our trip to England Southwest in almost real time during the trip, but it proved very impractical, not least because my laptop developed a problem with its keyboard. Thanks to the Polish Explorer for permission to use some footage from his recent video visiting the area near East Quantoxhead, and to the GeologyHub for some technical information regarding the rocks at East Quantoxhead Beach. Links to both channels can be found in the video description. This has been a production of A Yank in Sussex. If you've enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe or follow. Thanks for watching, and may you have a very nice day.